In part 1 I discussed Bagul's history, and I explained his motivations and desires. In this video we're going to focus on his daughter, and discuss how their stories intertwine. I recommend you watch part 1 because I'll be referencing a few ideas and characters that I explained in greater detail in that video. And before we start, I'm fully aware that there's half a dozen original Japanese films, there's graphic novels, TV series, books, another dozen sequels, prequels, remakes, and crossovers. I understand that there's an abundance of material that goes into great detail explaining the backstory and mythos of The Ring and Samara. But to keep this simple, I'm only using the 3 American remake films here. So let's talk about Samara and explore why she kills. I don't need to explain why someone would think Samara and Bagul are related. It's an easy connection to make. It's obvious that they both use a type of movie to enter our world. They have similar powers and their appearance and behavior are the same. There's way too many similarities not to see a connection, but there are things below the surface, hiding in the details, that I'm sure you haven't noticed. We don't know much about Bagul, but we do know almost everything about Samara. So let's examine her history, starting with her mother Evelyn. It's explained to us that Samara's mother was kidnapped and held in a basement for 8.5 months. We're supposed to think that the man raped her and got her pregnant, but Evelyn said,
"And the father?"
There was none.
She eventually escaped and went to a women's shelter. She was afraid that something from the water was coming for her baby.
She believed something had come for her baby from the waters of the world beyond this one.
I'm sorry, did you say water?
And I know this can be quickly labeled as coincidence, but if we turn our focus to the professor, the evidence becomes more compelling. We first meet the professor in Sinister Part 1, and he's basically the exposition that explains most of what we know about Bagul. In Part 2 it's mentioned that he was in possession of a strange radio with the Bagul symbol on it, and that he mysteriously disappeared. Bagul shouldn't be able to kill a person if they don't watch the films and move houses, right? Even when Deputy So-and-so is actively trying to stop Bagul in Part 2, Bagul doesn't kill him. All he does is try and scare him. So the professor's disappearance couldn't be Bagul, right? So what happened to him? Bagul contacted the professor and offered him a chance to help create a special child.
A child? It's gonna change the world.
Because he has no mouth, Bagul can only speak through the ghost kids, or through visions and dreams.
I know what it's like to be guided by visions.
But these dreams can appear nightmarish and can easily be misunderstood.
Having a vision doesn't mean you know what that vision means.
So he moved to a small town and started a new life, hoping that Bagul wouldn't be able to find him, but he was wrong. Bagul continued to send visions and eventually convinced him to kidnap a woman and perform a ritual so Bagul can impregnate her in a physical world. This woman was Samara's mother, Evelyn. Before she gave birth, Evelyn was haunted by nightmares and visions, just like the kids in the Sinister films, and just like the professor. When Samara was born, her mother knew what she was, and that Bagul wanted her to put Samara in the water so Bagul can take her. Evelyn failed when Samara was an infant, but succeeded when she was older. But there was a problem. Samara was suffocated and thrown into a well, but didn't die for 7 days. Her pain attracted someone who feeds on the suffering of children, her Uncle Malik. Angered by Bagul's secrecy, he trapped Samara in another dimension, far out of the reach of Bagul. But before we get to that, let's go back first. The years before she was killed, Samara tried contacting Bagul through the pictures that she created. She thought that he might come alive in one of them and help her escape. After years of trying, she finally learned how to contact him through the television, but in order for him to save her, she had to return to the water and be sacrificed by someone. Why else would a young girl stand right next to an open well? Samara wanted to be pushed in. She knew that she had to be sacrificed if she ever wanted to be with her dad. When her uncle found her, he trapped her in a dimension out of Bagul's reach and out of sight. Samara and Bagul are both visual demons, meaning that their power lies in being seen. So they get stronger the more people see them. This is the reason the professor blinded himself.
Bagul actually lived in the images themselves.
Samara can't hurt me because I can't see her.
Samara doesn't want to kill anyone. but she knows that she has to if she's ever going to be with her dad.
It will never stop until she's free.
And I'm sorry.
Samara created the VHS tape so she can be seen, and gain enough strength so she can escape her prison. This is why she doesn't kill you when you copy and share the tape with others. The final scene in the Ring movie shows this. Samara uploads her video online and is able to escape her prison and finally be reborn. One of my goals with this channel is to give a new perspective on every cinematic horror villain. I planned on adding Slender Man to this idea since he officially has a movie now, but once I started writing it, I felt that he deserved to be more than just an afterthought in somebody else's story. So